Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Modern Horizons 2 hits the streets this Friday, and while it's not connected directly to Magic's ongoing story, it does contain over 20 legendary cards, each having their own place within the game's narrative. If you haven't been playing for very long, the significance of some of these characters may be lost on you. So today, we're going to run down the list and let you know who's who among the legends of Modern Horizons 2. Before we get to that though, let me invite you to check out Into the AM using my link in the description below. I wear their shirts every day. I am wearing one right now. This is one of their solid color basics, but they also have some really cool graphic tees as well. And all this week, you can grab a 3-shirt bundle on sale. These are already a great deal, and it gets better because if you shop using my link in the description, you get to save another 10% on top of all that. Now that shops are opening up again for events, you do want to be the best dressed person playing, right? Yeah, I thought so. Check out Into the AM using our link, and you'll even be helping to support the channel, which Nicole and I really appreciate. Alright, now let's talk about the Legends of Modern Horizons DOS. We'll start with Svilin? I don't know if that's right, but she's a merfolk god from Dominaria who was first mentioned in-game in the set Fallen Empires in 1994. She created the merfolk on Dominaria, at least in the region of Voldalia, but then she vanished, leaving behind only her written teachings. And now, a group called the Society of the Conch travels the plane looking for evidence of her presence in the sea or sky. Torok was a human from Dominaria's past who became somewhat famous for worshipping the Ebon Praetor, rather than the much more popular Hand of Justice. He built an empire and founded the Order of the Ebon Hand during a time when the game used different arts for the same card, all within a single set. This is also where we got the original Hymn to Turok, and that card's effect is now embedded within Turok himself, if you're willing to pay his kicker cost. Our visit to Ixalan in 2017 teased the existence of a bold pirate captain named Ripley Vance. Her blasting cannons carved a small island formation into a makeshift fortress, but that was all we really saw of her until now. Ragavan is also a pirate, but from a different plane entirely. He's the pet of Kari Zev, who aided the renegades on Kaladesh during the events of Aether Revolt. Kari makes a Ragavan token when she attacks, but this is the first time the monkey has gotten his own legendary card, which keeps his power and toughness, and uses the dash mechanic to emulate him popping into combat the same way he did with his human companion. Aeve, Chatterfang, and Thrasta are the new mono-green legends in Modern Horizons 2, but they were each created just for this set, and so they haven't appeared in any stories yet. Asmore, and no, you're not going to get me to even try to pronounce her whole name, comes to us from the earliest days of Magic, being originally referenced on Granite Gargoyle way back in Alpha. Marble Gargoyle, by the way, is sort of a color-shifted update that also adds in the artifact type for flavor. And Asmore is all about flavor. She's the author of the Underworld Cookbook, full of recipes she created while serving as the personal chef to a Lord of the Pit she had summoned. She initially ran out of things to feed the Lord, whose name was Vincent, by the way, and so he was going to eat her before she agreed to become his cooking slave for the next 7 years and 7 days. You just gotta love a demon who commits to his power and toughness, really. Anyway, Asmore served a different meal every day, and then tried to sell copies of her book, but it was a flop with everyone except Vincent and her own mother. Oh well. Garth was a young man on Dominaria who wanted revenge on the planeswalker Gaedrone Dihada for destroying his hometown. He was eventually tricked into summoning Dakon to the plane, which kicked off this whole war between him and Dihada, which we'll get to in just a moment. Garth survived all of that and founded House Carthalion, which would go on to be a noteworthy family line in the history of Dominaria, and included Jared Carthalion, who we just saw in Commander Legends. So back to this whole Dakon Dahada thing. Dahada was a demon planeswalker who wanted an ultimate weapon for herself, because sometimes being a demon planeswalker just isn't enough. She asked a master blacksmith named Dakon to create such a weapon for her with the promise of making him a planeswalker in return. Upon creation of the blade, Dahada used it to stab Dakon's shadow and absorbed that and his soul, which left him wondering why she'd make him a planeswalker only to then turn him into an enemy. Years later, Dakon would be summoned by Garth and given his chance to repay Dahada. She was ready for this, though, and summoned a pair of elder dragons to fight on her behalf. That would be Chromium and Piru. Ultimately, Dakon was able to get his hands on the sword he had created, the Black Blade, and he used it to slay Piru. That's why during War of the Spark, everyone is so keen on Gideon using the Black Blade against Nicol Bolas. They thought it was one of the only weapons in history to have actually defeated an Elder Dragon. Dakon was originally a legendary creature printed in the set Legends in 1994, and his new Planeswalker card retains his colors and his connection to the number of lands you control. Dahada, meanwhile, was quoted on Lure in 5th edition. Her new Planeswalker card captures the controlling nature of her magic, as expressed in her stories from back in the day. And then, of course, there is Profane Tutor, another new card in Modern Horizons 2 that has both of them together at the forging of the Black Blade. I should point out, both of these characters haven't been mentioned in the stories in a long time, and we never heard about them dying, really, so it's possible they're still out there somewhere and could be seen again someday. Grist is the set's other planeswalker, but they were created just for this set and don't have a story yet. The same seems to be true for Lannis, Scythus, Yusri, and Zabaz, unfortunately. General Rockarik is a Boros commander from Ravnica's past. He supplied the city with massive stone titans that could be animated by the Legion to defend people in times of need. The magic that made this possible was either broken or disabled somehow when one of the statues was toppled, which explains why we didn't have a bunch of rocky megazords standing up to the eternalized gods during the War of the Spark. And, speaking of sparks, Garth Onei is a character that kinda predates that part of Planeswalker lore. He was a wizard of great power during the early days of Dominaria, and he appeared in some of the game's earliest published books. In these stories, he displayed mastery of all 5 colors of magic, often using spells literally right from the game, like Circle of Protection, Fireball, and Terror. So his card in Modern Horizons 2 pays tribute to this by letting him do exactly that, cast cards by name, which is pretty neat. Now, you might have seen a little video I did on the Phyrexians recently, in which I got a ton of comments from people telling me I misspelled the word complete. To all of those people, please take a look at our next card, Cauldra Complete, as you begin to type up your email to Wizards of the Coast. It seems only fair if you're gonna say I got it wrong, they must have too, right? As I explained in my video, which you should go back and watch if you haven't already, complete is a real word with a specific meaning. It is an Old English term for having all necessary or desired elements or skills. And that is the end goal of the Phyrexians. They want to improve upon natural life through artificial means until everything is their version of perfect. In the original Mirrodin block, Cauldra was an avatar summoned by Glissa Sunseeker to help fight Memnarch's army of constructs. Cauldra carried 3 specific artifacts, all of which fell into the hands of the Phyrexians once they assumed control of the plane. So now, it appears they have been able to resummon Cauldra and corrupt the signature helm, shield, and sword, giving them their own completed version of the avatar. That is a depressing one. Let's end on something more uplifting. Yavamaya, Cradle of Growth. Ah, perfect. This legendary land represents a region of Dominaria touched by the influence of Multani, one of the best elementals in the game when ranked by lore. Home to everything from ants to worms, this forest also supplied the original hull seed for the skyship Weatherlight. And it stands in stark contrast to its darker cousin, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, which turns all lands into swamps. So there you go. Those are the legends brought to us within Modern Horizons 2. Some reach back to the game's humble beginnings, and some are taking their own first shaky steps into the massive narrative that makes up Magic's story. I'm going to keep my eye on Scythus because Ryan Yee remains my favorite artist working today, and Theros is one of my favorite planes, and I love the build-around challenge of enchantments. In fact, I think I have a new commander deck to work on. But which is your favorite? Which legend will be making an appearance in your next deck? And which would look best wearing a tailor-fitted tee from Into the AM? Let me know down in the comments, and if I like your answer the best, I might even toss you a $25 gift card to pick out some shirts for yourself. Then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya.